Welcome to Bloom and Beyond, the podcast from Bloom Behavior Consulting, where we help parents navigate early intervention with confidence, compassion, and clarity. We're your host. I'm Ramsey McGlamory.
And I'm Becca Black, both board-certified behavior analysts and moms who believe every family deserves support that grows with them. Whether your child has a diagnosis or you're simply seeking guidance to better understand their development, you're in the right place.
Let's explore the milestones, mindsets, and moments that can help you and your child bloom and beyond.
I'm so excited. It's Shaina Finch. Shaina and I have worked together since 2024. Her son started ABA and I was their BCBA on the case. And we just kind of clicked and became great friends in this whole process. And I'm really excited to share her story today. So thank you, Shaina. I'm going to turn it over to you. If you will just introduce yourself and then talk a little bit about your family.
Yeah, of course. Like Ramsey said, I'm Shaina Finch. My son was diagnosed with level 2 autism when we first got the diagnosis. My husband and I felt it was really important to get him the best help we could. And so he has a little brother and they're the best friends. I always say the best thing we ever gave our son was his little brother. And their relationship is so cute and sweet. And we currently live in Indiana. My husband's getting his MBA at the business school here. And yeah, that's like kind of a little bit about our family.
Yeah. So you were in Atlanta with me, and then Thomas started his MBA, and
Yes.
you guys moved, which was so sad.
It was definitely scary, especially with all like the amazing help we had in Atlanta and the relationships we made. And we actually left a really good job and moved to Atlanta, moved to Georgia specifically because it's one of the top states for autism. So Roman's my 5-year-old son, and he is just like one of the sweetest boys you'll ever meet. He's very funny. He really loves to be silly, goof off with friends, like any typical 5-year-old, I'd say. He loves crocodiles. Anything animal is like his jam. Dinosaurs, loves sharks. So that's always really fun with him. He's also very empathetic and he's very aware of people around him. And like the other day, he told me he was playing at recess and this little girl started crying. And he said that he went up to her and he said, "Do you want a hug?" Because he's like, "You've taught me that when people are sad, they want a hug, but we have to ask." He's really a sweet, empathetic boy. And he loves being my helper.
I remember when Donnie was a baby when I first met you, and Ronan was always so gentle with him. I mean, from day one, I feel like he just knew this is my baby brother, and actually to the point where he would get so upset at me if I held the baby or anybody new coming around him. He was so protective. It was just,
Yeah, he's a very protective little boy. He's very protective of his little brother.
early years with Roman, what were those cues that you started to see? When did that start? When you were starting to like question?
So it was kind of a hard time because Roman was born January 2020. And as we all know, during that time, that was COVID. And so a lot of what I was hearing from my pediatrician at the time in California was on major lockdown, and they were one of the states that was locked out for like 2 years after COVID. But they were like, we're kind of expecting speech delays. We're expecting behavioral differences, like socially behavioral differences in kids because, he wasn't getting the opportunity to go over to someone's house and play. He wasn't getting the opportunity to go to these mommy and me classes or like family parties and stuff. So one of the first things, and also he was my first child. And so I didn't really know what to look for. And so I really relied on like my family. So it was actually my mother-in-law like kind of started noticing things. She was just like, he's just really quiet, but he was like so cuddly. And so he was so like warm and like he loved to be silly. He'd play peekaboo and things like that. So we didn't really like think anything, but his speech, I would say his speech was the main thing. And he didn't start talking until after he was 4. And then he would do head banging a little bit at first, but nothing crazy. And what's hard is that we actually had him evaluated when he was 2. but they didn't think he was because he was so social, because he would look you in the eye at first. He would look you in the eye. He'd imitate you a little bit. The other thing I'd say too is that he didn't really respond to his name, at least not on the first time. Like, I'd have to kind of like sometimes like clap, like make a loud noise. And so we thought it could be like a hearing issue at first,
Yeah. Yeah.
I'd say it was those 3 things: lack of speech, lack of response to his name, and then, like, the head banging, because no one wants to see their child injuring themselves.
Right.
Mhm.
Right. You're the second person that I've talked to for this that has mentioned the COVID thing and
Yeah.
that providers during that time, I've heard a lot that pediatricians
Mhm.
are a little hesitant to refer out for an assessment because some
Yeah.
kids just hit milestones later
Mhm.
and that's, perfectly fine. But then you added in this other component of
Mm.
COVID and it's true. I mean, that does have an effect on you know,
That
communication.
and I remember too, like, we had a really core friend group for my husband's work with, like, 2 other moms, and I'd kind of be like, I'd be watching their kids because 'cause they're all similar age, but they had girls, and I had a boy, and they're like, "I think that's just kind of like how Roman is." And I'm like, "Okay, yeah, like, if you guys say," and they had multiple kids, and I was like, "Okay." So, it wasn't that I was ever, like, against getting the diagnosis, it was just hard because I kept doubting myself
Mm.
because of the time that we were in with COVID, where I was like, "I think something's wrong." But then the next day, he'd be, like, so jovial and happy, and we wouldn't have a single meltdown for, like, weeks, and I'd be like, "Ugh, what am I thinking? Like, I'm crazy." And I remember my husband saying,
Mm.
"He doesn't have autism. What are you talking about?" And I'm like, "Okay, yeah, you're right. He doesn't." So it's kind of like gaslighting myself. I think
Yeah,
just, like,
right.
I don't know, not necessarily wanting to believe it at first, or think, like, this is happening to our family.
And then you had the first assessment done.
And I remember we took him in, he had just turned 2. He was, like, 25 months old, and we took him in, and she's like, "Okay, like, clap your hands." He starts clapping his hands. She's like, he's making eye contact with her. She's like, "Touch your nose." He's touching his nose. He's following directions. Yes, his speech was, like, delayed, but they're like, "Oh, that's COVID. Everyone's wearing masks. Like, they're not seeing people's lips move. They don't know." And so she, like, looked at me, she's like, "There's no way he has autism." They were very, very positive that there was no way that he had
Wow.
autism, and they were like, "Maybe, like, music therapy would help, something like that," but as far as a diagnosis, they did not believe that at the time.
Wow.
Then after that, my husband got a really amazing job offer from a very large company, and we kind of turned it down. So we decided to move away from our family, and both our families are from California, so it was really hard. But we ended up moving to Utah for this job opportunity, and within like 6 months of moving there, we got him evaluated again, and it was through the school district, and they said, "No, not autistic."
What happened in those 6 months that made you reconsider the first diagnosis that you're
Yeah.
like, we need another opinion?
And so when we moved, I'm like, okay, his speech is going to come. And a lot of that time I was very like looking towards social media. I was looking at a lot of like speech therapist accounts and everything. And I was like, okay, like we need to get him into speech therapy. So we immediately like got him. Like I remember finding my doctor and I was like, okay, he's 2. He's not really talking. He has like maybe 5 words, five words ish. And they're like, yeah, like let's look into speech. And so we got him in with a speech place. But the problem was in that state, so many kids needed that help that we couldn't get him in often enough. He was getting like an hour of speech once a month, which was not ideal for him.
No.
And so we're like, okay, we need more. So we're like, we're going to go to the school district because I I'm a stay-at-home mom and I really didn't want to have him away. I felt like it was such a gift to have him with me,
Mhm.
but at the same time I knew I couldn't help him the way he needed to be helped. So I needed to look into what the school district could offer. And so we ended up calling just our school district. It wasn't even through our pediatrician. I just looked up the number, called them, and I got an evaluation and he scored like less than 5%, less than 5%. But they're like, we're really not seeing autism stuff because he was warming up to people. It wasn't like that kind of fear of new people. Roman never stimmed. I think that's kind of important to know. He never stimmed. He never had like a tell, if you will, for what was going on with his body.
Yeah, like those really obvious
Those
ones, like
really obvious ones, like even I've
spinning
seen
wheels
kids
and
level 1 and they'll be like finger posturing or something,
Mhm.
and doing that. He didn't have any of that. And so there was a lot of like physical cues that were missing that usually line up with someone who had
Right.
autism. So we go in and they're like, no, not autism. We think maybe like ADHD, but that's not something really diagnosed in kids this young. And I was like, okay,
Yeah.
like cool. And I'm like, his dad has ADHD. So I'm like that would make sense to me. And you always read online once you start going down the autism rabbit hole that ADHD and autism get confused. And it's kind of like that little rope of
Yeah.
hope that you're holding on to that you're like clinging to. Oh, it's just ADHD. It's just ADHD.
Yeah.
And so we started but we did get approved for speech services through the school, and then he was able to attend a special ed, like, little preschool group that met once a week for, like, an hour and a half before he turned
Okay.
3, and so we started that.
And that was in Utah.
That was in Utah, yeah.
Okay. And so he said he's qualified for like the special needs
Yeah, he called
program.
special needs program because of the speech delays, behavior
So the real only characteristic that he was showing was the delayed speech.
the delayed speech,
Right.
and then the head banging when he'd get, like, very
Mhm.
upset, when he'd get really mad. And a lot of that I felt like not that I brushed it off, but I just was like, he's not talking. He must feel so frustrated. Like, how hard is it to not be able to like express your needs?
Right. Yeah.
But he was my little like best friend. Like, we'd go to public places all the time. He'd play with other kids. We'd go to like indoor play gyms. I wouldn't even be in there with him, and he'd be fine. Um, he also was never like an eloper or anything like that. Like, if he
Mhm.
eloped, it was more just like him laughing, looking back at me, like making sure I was there. But if I wasn't following, he'd stop.
Right. Like chase me. This is a fun
Yeah.
game.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So it was hard to kind of understand what was going on with him at that time. And he was 2.5 when this was going on.
And he was receiving speech through
He
the school that one day that he was there.
Yeah, he was getting
Okay.
speech at home and like every other week. And then we were also paying for private speech, but we didn't have a diagnosis. So I guess the backstory too with Utah, like what prompted our move from Utah was his started getting worse. And it started getting to the point where I couldn't leave him at our church nursery. I had to go with him, very attached to me. There were times I'd drop him off at that little preschool class and he would be like screaming his head off. And I'd feel so guilty. I'd like go buy gift cards for the teachers because I was like horrified by his behavior. And I looked into getting him tested, and there wasn't really that many places that did evaluations because you can't get the evaluation done at your doctor's office. You have to go to like a psychiatrist and a pediatric psychiatrist. And the only place I was doing that was the U of U hospital. And it was a year and a half wait to get. And the thing you see online when you're looking up autism is like early intervention, early intervention. And you're thinking, okay, it feels hard waiting 4 months. Like,
Right.
what do you mean I have to wait a year and a half? Like, where is he gonna be? And I don't know, I just felt very, like, defeated because I was trying to get him the help. We'd already done 2 evals. I kept rounding back to this, and nothing was coming from it, and so but I was like, "There's something wrong." Like, he's screaming. He started, like, screaming sometimes in social, like, situations. It was never that it was, like, loud. It was just more like if there were a lot of people. Like, that
Mhm.
was really hard for him. Waiting in line was impossible, and just, like, basic things, and then he, like, kind of would, like, go into his own world, I'd say, a little bit, so I'd, like, try to be talking to him, and he'd just kinda be, like, looking out the window and just kinda zoning out. I mean, I remember we did a 10-hour car trip, and I forgot our bag of toys for the car. He stared out the window for 10 straight hours, didn't make a peep, and I was like,
Wow.
I mean,
So,
we were stopping and taking, like, breaks and stuff, but, like,
yeah.
I mean, he was just like
Wow.
mute in the back seat, just chilling. And he was, how old was he? I was pregnant with my second at the time. So he was like 2 and 7 months.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Yeah. Telling
To
two.
you're like, I'm not getting this diagnosis. I'm doing everything that I can
Hmm.
per what's recommended with like speech and
Hmm.
socialization, and he's regressing. Like
Yeah.
things are getting worse. They're not getting
Mm.
better.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so it wasn't until after I had the baby and my husband got a really nice paternity leave that I kind of just talked to my husband one night and I'm like, it's not working here. Like, he left his job. And so it was really hard. I was like, we need to like figure something out because we're not getting the help we need for Roman. And so we looked up like which states had good, and we had some family in Georgia. So he applied to a bunch of different companies. And like within a month, got an offer. And then like 3 weeks later from that, we were moving. And so we moved to Georgia and I went to, I don't even remember how I found Dr. Taylor Turnquist is her name. Oh, you know what? No, I called the autism center, the Marcus Center. They were like booked out. And they're like, I was like, okay, is there anyone you could recommend? And so they recommended her to me. And she had like a 3 month wait list, which felt so long. But
Yeah.
we got in. And I think she ended up having a cancellation because I moved June 1st and I was getting him evaluated end of July. And then I got the diagnostic report end of August. But I remember we walked in and he was just having a meltdown because she wanted to try to evaluate him on her own. But
Ah,
he like wouldn't separate from me. And we were just in there and she's like, yeah, she's like, yeah, she's like, I need to review my notes. But she's like, right now he's scoring like he is. And I just remember just feeling like so heartbroken in that moment.
it was like validating a fear in a way.
I think honestly at that point I was so exhausted of just like trying to get the diagnosis. I wasn't even like I didn't even feel it even like a glimpse of joy by getting that validation. It was just very much like I need help. And I'm like, I need this diagnosis. And so yeah, I mean, like I said, I just felt like so, so sad because it just wasn't what I had pictured for my life and for my
Yeah.
son's life. It wasn't what I had pictured for him, you know?
Right. Right.
I mean, any of my friends would tell you I'd always wanted to be a mom. That was like my main goal throughout my entire life was to be a mom. And then not having it be how I wanted was really hard.
Yeah.
So
How long do you feel like that grieving process went on?
and I think like 6 to 8 months, I'd say. It wasn't until we started ABA that that I kind of started to see like the light at the end of the tunnel. Up
Yeah.
to that point, it kinda just felt like blackness and just dark. I mean, I love my son. We are like twin flames, I would say. We're very similar personalities. He's a very sweet and kind of laid back little boy, but I just knew, like, the behavior I was seeing from him wasn't him. I was like, "This
Right.
isn't his personality." 'Cause I'm like, "How can he do this, but then he can also do this?" I'm like, "It isn't making sense." It was an out of body experience
Mhm.
for him.
What exactly was it, do you think at the time about the diagnosis that caused so much pain and heartache? What were you thinking
Um,
about?
I think it was just how much unknown there is even now still about autism and, like, how broad the spectrum is. So when he got diagnosed at a level 2, but his social was like level 1 borderline because he like I mentioned before, he's very social, but his repetitive and restrictive behavior was level 3. So the most severe that you can score for like the autism diagnosis. And so between those 2, he landed at a level 2 autism. So mild to moderate or moderate to severe, I don't know, but it's moderate
Yeah.
his
Yeah.
his diagnosis.
Did your view of autism from that moment, has it changed over the past as you've learned more about it or as you've just
Yeah,
specifically with Roman?
yeah, I honestly love that he's autistic now, which kind of
Wow.
might sound like controversial, but the way he sees things and the way his mind works, it's so interesting. And I honestly feel like it's a gift because I think the way I get to experience the world with him versus my other son's not autistic. And the difference is just incredible, honestly. And, when we got the diagnosis, I thought, this is the end of the world. Like,
Yeah.
he's never gonna, make friends. He's gonna get bullied, never gonna have a girlfriend, never gonna have a partner, like, nothing, kids. I didn't think any of that was possible. But through our journey, I now, like, have hope that that will happen for him. And you know, I know that he does have friends now. He's thriving now. I wish I could go back and tell myself everything was gonna be okay. 'Cause at the time,
Right.
I did not think for one moment anything was gonna be okay.
Which is, so powerful with the people that are going through what you were going through in that moment, just like the heartache, and to be able to share your story today and just be like, I was there.
Yeah,
My world was
I was rock bottom. I mean, the thing about being a parent, and I think specifically a mom, we tend to be the default parents for our children, is just like I was like so sad and so depressed about his diagnosis.
yeah.
I still had to wake up every day. I still had to like take him. I'm like, I'm still gonna take him to the park. I'm not gonna like hide him away. I was still doing things with him, and
Mm,
I think, like, just that discipline and determination to, like, still show up for my children, like, really helped too throughout that time.
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And I don't think it's talked about enough just how deep that grief can be.
I definitely felt, like, a lot of guilt over the grief I felt
Mm,
because he's my child. I always tell my friends, I'm like, "It's like having your heart outside of your body when you have a child."
yeah.
And sending your heart into the world, like, "Please, like, treat my, like, heart kindly."
Right.
So, I felt so much guilt, and I felt like, "Oh, is this me not being accepting of my child?" But I think my point is that it's okay to grieve the life you pictured for your child. It's okay to grieve the journey that you thought your motherhood would be.
Yeah.
It doesn't make your motherhood journey any less beautiful or any less perfect for you or any less perfect for Roman. He's never going to know any different, like what it's like to not be autistic, you know? And so I think once I had that mind shift, that's when I started to kind of be like, okay, like everything's going to work out how it's supposed to.
Right. Well, that's powerful right there. Thank you. Thank you for
Yeah.
sharing that. That is good stuff,
Yeah.
Shayna. Good. That's great stuff.
Like,
So
getting teary eyed.
I know, me too.
Yeah, it was really
Yeah.
wild the journey to get him to where he is.
So you took all that and you talk about waking up every day and doing the most for your kid. If I
Mhm.
could name a parent that I've worked with, you are in the top 5. No, you're in the top 3 of parents that I feel like went above and beyond. And I don't mean that in a way that discouraging any
Mhm.
other parents I've worked with, but it was just a whole nother level. I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
of
We can go more into,
determination.
like, his, like, what happened when we first met, and if you wanna talk
Yeah.
like,
Yes, I would love to. So you started touring ABA companies.
you guys were actually the only one we toured. So,
Okay, okay.
we got the
Let's talk about
diagnosis.
that.
Okay, so we got the diagnosis from Dr. Taylor Turnquist. She highly
Okay, no, it's fine.
recommended dogwood autism to us, and I remember feeling so anxious because we got the diagnosis, and I started looking up what's ABA. Do not look up what ABA is online. I mean, do and don't, but take it with a grain of salt, I guess is what
Yeah.
I'm trying to say, because I was kinda like, "No, let's not do ABA," because I was like, "This is horrendous what they do to these kids." But it's not what ABA is now. It might have been what ABA was in, like, the '80s when it kinda first started becoming a thing, but if ABA is done right, it's life-changing, and I always say it saved our son's life, but if it
Man,
wasn't for oh, sorry.
what is something that you saw online? Like, what are these things that
Um,
you were seeing that you were like, this is not for me?
so one thing I saw online was that they were locking children in, like, a room by themselves, or they would, like, physically restrain them. I saw, like, a child get hit in a video, and I was like,
Mhm.
"This is unacceptable." I'm like, "You can't beat someone into submission." That's kind of like what it felt like they were trying to do. And the other thing I wanna make a comment about Roman's very strong-willed. So he got this diagnosis, he's a naturally strong-willed child, and I didn't wanna break that in him, but I'm like, "Something has to change because it was getting out of control, and honestly, I was just so desensitized to it.
Yeah. Yeah. When I met you, you were like, it was
It
just a
was
day
my
in the
norm.
life.
It was my norm
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I'd never had he was my first child, so I had nothing to compare it to.
Right.
So
And I think honestly, in a way, when that becomes your norm, it's kind of a coping mechanism,
oh, 100
right?
100%. It definitely got to the point where it was easier to just give him what he wanted than to, like, tell him no.
Fight it every day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like, I got so burnt out. My husband was at work. And he had like a pretty demanding job. And so it was just me for like 10 hours a day with my two boys. And I was just like, it got to the point where I'm like, it's easier to just like let him have 3 popsicles.
Yeah.
That's what he wants, than to say, no, you already had a popsicle. We're not going to do that, because then that would turn into like a 45-minute meltdown. And I
Right.
want to deal with that. And it was
Yeah. And then
kind of like
his,
watch TV or do whatever he wanted to do, than to be like, no, we're going to go do this. No, we're all done TV. That just wasn't a reality. I don't like it, just wasn't possible at the time. It was not
yeah.
possible.
Yeah.
I didn't feel guilt over how I was parenting him at the time. That really wasn't something that affected me. I felt more upset that I couldn't get him the help he needed. And like I was applying for like a state funded program to pay for the ABA after finding the ABA clinic that we chose. We found them in like September, right after we got the diagnosis. We did a tour, and then it took like 4 months of paperwork, and then 2 months after we submitted the application to get the funding we needed to be able to provide the service that he so desperately needed.
So you toured the clinic that I was working at,
Yeah.
and you had seen all these horrible things about ABA, people locking them in closets. And what inside of you were you thinking? Was there just this hope, or like, I
just
feel
kind
like
of
that's
felt
not
like,
true?
I honestly, not everyone's religious, but to me, I just kind of felt like I was just praying all the time. We're a religious family, and a Christian family. And I just felt like I'm gonna know. Like I'm gonna know in my gut, like God's gonna like let me know. I'm gonna like have like the spirit tell me like, yeah, this is right for our son. And so I remember I went in and Ramsey, did you give me the tour? Was it you? Mhm.
So
Somebody
I
was I with Becca? Because you weren't
I
supposed
was
to do my BCBA at first. I was with
yeah,
someone else. Like if
Lindsay
we
gave
were
me the
going
tour.
to send him, we were gonna be with someone else.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, and she was the one that gave you the initial tour, and I kinda met you in passing when this happened. Roman was literally, like, climbing the walls in the ADA, and I was just like, "Oh,
Yeah, it was.
crazy, I like it."
Yeah, like, that was the thing, like, we might say Roman's all boy. Like, you see those videos about boy moms, and they're like, "Oh, my kid's, like, riding a motorcycle." That was Roman. He was very, like, sensory seeking. Now I know the term for it. He was very sensory seeking, and so he would, like, climb everything. He'd jump off of everything. He'd be doing, like, flips off of stuff, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, is this just him being a little boy or what?" And yeah, I mean, I think Ramsey will tell you too that she had definitely a different view of who I was at that time than when she like actually started working with me, because I felt like a shell of
Yeah.
myself. And I just kind of felt like I was going through the motions, but I wasn't like experiencing anything.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that first time, it was in passing and it was short.
I was
It
nice, I was polite, but I was just kind of,
yes,
yeah.
okay, but
Mhm.
just the
My
light.
light was out, was blind. My light
Yeah.
was on.
It was gone, and I could just tell there was just so much defeat,
Hmm.
and and at that point, you still had so many hurdles to go, and you're being proactive about, like, looking up ABA companies, but you're probably at that point, I'm imagining thinking like, "Wow, I still have, weeks of paperwork to do."
And I think in that moment, it was good that I didn't necessarily know like how long the process was going to be with trying to get the state funding we were trying to get. Because I always say I think that they make it purposely hard.
Yeah.
So you really like my biggest advice to parents that are listening is just be proactive, and the squeaky wheel gets the grease. Essentially, I was calling them like every day when I had questions and harassing my caseworker in the nicest way possible.
Right.
Like harassing.
What was it about the clinic
Mhm.
that and I know you came back, so you toured and you were like, "Yes, this looks good." And then you came back and you stayed when I was placed to be your BCBA, you stayed during the assessment and we got to talk and you got to like find out even more information. What
And
was it that made
yeah,
you feel safe?
well, first, the clinic was a very happy place, and I really, like, paid attention to the kids and seeing, like, how they were acting. I mean, obviously, they weren't gonna act like a neurotypical child, but, like, just because your child has autism doesn't mean that they don't experience happiness, sadness, these different emotions. So I was looking at the other children. Um, and then, like I said, I was very into like social media accounts. So I kind of knew like keywords to like ask. And so I was like, how do you guys approach ABA? And they were like, oh, we're neurodivergent affirming. And I was like, as soon as I heard that phrase, I was like, done, sold, because I knew with that, it was like, no, if he really doesn't want to do something, you guys aren't going to force him. And I think when ABA is done right, it's never about like forcing the child to do anything. It's more um, the repetitiveness of the therapy and the like, okay, you don't want to do right now? We're going to take a 5-minute break, but in 5 minutes, I'm coming back and I'm going to like do the same thing. And then when you're ready, we can do that. But with
Right.
ABA, I mean, you're able to see the therapist. You're not locked into just an hour. So they're able to do the repetitiveness of the one task and you just kind of build upon that. Mm. I think when I spoke to you and I was just like, yeah, I'm really worried. I was like, do you guys ever restrain the child? You're like, no, we never do that. And there's like, there's always someone with them. Um, and just like the ability for me that like you guys, you can come in any time you want. Cause that was really scary because Roman required like 32 hours a week. I had
Yeah.
another child. I couldn't have my other child there for 32 hours a week. Like I wasn't possible to be present the whole time. So it was kind of like a leap of faith. Just
Yeah.
being, okay, like I've done my research as well as I can. I just kind of like have to let go and trust. And then I just really paid attention to Roman's behaviors and how he would be when I'd pick him up. It's kind of not necessarily that his behaviors were getting better at home, but just like, was he content when I was picking him up? And he always was.
Yeah.
So,
Right. I think that's a huge sign. And I tell parents that. And sometimes there's a honeymoon process where they're sometimes feeling just as nervous to leave parents as, we're nervous to leave them. But after a couple weeks, like typically I like to say, give me 2 weeks with your kid.
yeah,
I promise you, they're going to be like leaving you at the door. And, happy to see you when you get here in the afternoon, but it's not going to be like, oh, please don't take me to
yeah,
school.
exactly. And that's the thing, you'll know, like you do know your child and just like trust your intuition. I mean, I know people always say like this comment was made a lot in the clinic, like Roman and you are so close. Like the way I could anticipate his needs like wasn't typical, but I still think like any parent, you do know your child. I mean, you spent like every day with them up until this point. You'll know if something's not right.
Right. Do you have any advice for somebody that is looking touring ABA clinics of what?
Neurodivergent affirming, look on their website, kind of see what their approach is. That was like the big thing.
So before you started ABA, he was doing speech
He
here.
was doing speech for like almost 6 months, and he was going twice a week, getting an hour of speech per week. So that was quadruple what we were getting.
Yes,
Uh,
that's amazing. So you had a really great relationship with her.
yeah, an
He was
amazing
making
relationship.
progress.
I tend to make friends with the therapist. I can't help it.
You make friends with
We
everyone.
yeah, so I'm a friend of everyone. Her and I had a really good bond, and it was actually getting to a point where we were looking into getting, him an AAC device, and so I told her, I'm like, "I'm starting to look into ABA," 'cause I told her, I'm like, "I'm having all this behavior at home," and we were also doing OT as well.
And things behaviorally are getting worse at
Yeah.
home. And so you're like, I'm a ticking time bomb. Like
Well, yeah,
I
and he, like,
can't do
he
this.
was hitting my husband, he would hit me, just like our legs, but he'd never hit his little brother. That's something I do wanna say, like, we never had any issues with the little brother. It was always just directed towards me and my husband, Thomas.
Yeah. And mainly you.
Mainly me, 'cause I'm the caretaker.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And then when he would get so escalated and worked up over something, that's when the headbanging would come back in, which was a safety concern.
no, it wasn't. I was like, "He's gonna concuss himself." Yeah, he also wasn't sleeping through the night. He's first time he ever slept through the night, he was 18 months.
So you've heard of this ABA, and so you're like, it's worth a shot.
It was my Hail Mary. That's how I felt. I'm like, because like I said, I never wanted to change who he was. But I'm like, at the same time, for him to live and grow up in this society, like he does need to learn how to cope. But I didn't want to change who he was. I'd heard ABA was like not just for a reason. I was like, that's the last thing I'm gonna do. But then
Right.
Like 6 months of just speech and OT, we weren't making the progress I wanted. And so that's what drove me to ABA.
And you brought it up to your speech provider.
Yeah, it was very anti at first. Very, very anti. And it was hard because I respected her a ton. But one thing she said to me all the time, I still respect her so much, was like, she's like, this has just been my experience. But she's like, you're his mom. Like, you have to trust yourself. And she's like, I can give you all the advice in the world, but like ultimately it comes down to you. And so, I ended up like really, I truly, truly valued her opinion, but I was like, something has to change. And I think it was my desperation that like made me pull the trigger with
Yeah.
getting him in the clinic.
Yeah.
Like I said, at first he got diagnosed that Ramsey told me, she's like, yeah, he probably needs like 33 hours a week. I was like, are you joking? That's like way too much. I mean, that's a full-time
Right.
job. He was 3.5 going to be 4. I mean, I felt so much guilt over sending him to therapy that much. And then we continued to do speech and OT on top of that, ended up dropping OT, but we were still doing speech. So he was spending like, oh my gosh, like 35 hours a week in therapy.
Yeah. Yeah. And
And
before this, I mean, he was doing speech and he was doing OT. You were seeing like these little minute.
yeah, and we were seeing progress. Like, I don't want to discredit speech or OT at all because I do think those are very vital. I think it was that we had like once we got ABA, it was just kind of like the missing link in the chain. Like
Yeah.
it was
Totally.
disconnected, doing good, and then we added ABA, and it was like the trifecta. It was perfect, and that's like it was with all three that we were able to start making the progress. Like I
Yeah.
do think that we needed all the therapy. It wasn't just like ABA was this one and done thing. We definitely needed the extra therapy as well.
Yeah. And that's so common. And I talk about it with a lot of parents, outside providers, ET, OT, speech. When we can collaborate, that is just chef's kiss. Like a true care team
Yeah.
working together
Mhm.
is incredible. And unfortunately, because of the past that ABA has, a lot of outside providers hear the term ABA and they're like, oh my gosh, like absolutely not. And to be
Mhm.
honest, and say I won't even say it's like the past of what ABA has. There are still companies out there that are doing.
No, there are, and that's why, like, I think the big red flag too was when we were moving, we thought we might have to continue ABA. We haven't had to, but I remember talking to Ramsey. She's like, if they won't let you tour the facility, big red flag. If they're like not on their website saying neurodivergent affirming or modern ABA, big red flag. Those are things to like be wary of.
Totally, totally. See how they are talking to the kids.
Hmm.
See how, like you have to go in and tour. Like if you're going to send them,
Exactly. If it's not going to be in your home, you have to tour, and it's
yes,
give you peace of mind too.
yeah. So you approach speech. Speech said, I wouldn't do it, but you trust your gut.
Yeah.
Head.
They were just like, make sure to look for this neurodivergent affirming and just kind of like make sure like it's positive reinforcement, not negative. And like I said, like nothing, like react in the way he needs to
Yeah.
process something.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So you came to the clinic that I was working at the time.
Yeah.
We chatted. You felt
Mhm.
comfortable, and then we started
We
therapy.
started therapy, and within like the first week, he got paired with an RBT, and the RBT said to me, he's like, there's nothing this kid can't say. They're not coherent, but they're like, there's nothing this kid can't say.
And I will say, when he started, Roman started day one, I will never forget this. It'll live written free in my head forever. The only phrase that I would hear him say was, what? And that alone told me as a provider, I'm like, you you've got words. You
He
just
had
have to
like
figure
10 at
out.
the time. He had like 10. He had mom, dad. He'd say please and thank you. And I'd always be like, this kid's so quiet. He has like 10 words and 2 of them are please and thank you.
Right, right. Like he's got it's a small vocabulary, but he's got it. Like we can grow this. I know that we can. Like he does
Yeah, the
not.
instinct was there. And
Yes,
so
yes.
yeah, I remember, I mean, when I drop him off, I'd have to literally like be holding him. He'd be like crying and I'd have to just hand him over crying and just like walk away. And that was so hard. I think one time I even like dropped him off in his underwear because he was refusing to get dressed. And I was like,
Yeah,
I have to take you.
yeah.
And he was And I was like, here are his clothes. And I just kind of had to like let go and let God.
Oh, there are plenty of times where
Yeah. I mean, there was
underwear, no shoes.
no shoes, kicking and screaming at drop off.
Yeah.
Um, but
I think
we were starting to see progress. And I think that's what made me continue. And then the relationship I was building with Ramsey. I remember when I met Ramsey, we were like, okay, we're paired together. I asked her, okay, how many hours can I have? Because I told her, I was like, I want to max out my caregiver hours. And at one point, we were getting like an hour a week
yeah.
because I was willing to do it. And at the clinic, it was only required 1 hour. But I was like, I'm not
A month.
getting this. I need it. And
Yeah.
so I think if you have the availability to do that, 'cause it's not normal for everyone to have the availability that I had, but if you can, take as many hours as the caregivers are willing to give you for your caregiver training, not just for your child, because I think that played a key component in where Roman is now, is how I took everything Ramsey said and I told her, I'm like, your word is my Bible. Like, I will do whatever you tell me, even if it's hard. And we had a lot of things to like extinct out of realm to like cut the behavior completely. It wouldn't have been possible if I wasn't being consistent and doing what Ramsey told me.
Right. Right. And you wouldn't have one felt probably as confident implementing and
Not at all.
just having a support person there that is available to just be
Oh,
like, let me
yeah.
check
Just
in.
having someone with you, I think, like the guilt you feel, because there'd be times I like kind of had to ignore him. And I wouldn't have been able to do that if Ramsey wasn't there telling me, like, it's okay. You're not scarring him for life.
Right.
That was really, really hard for me.
Yeah. Yeah. And on not only the behavior end, but I think learning about the autistic brain
Yeah.
and how we
I mean,
teach
yeah.
things. You were so just on board with like, teach me everything. Like, I
Yeah.
want to know how do you teach? What is
Well,
the
'cause I
best?
don't I don't think like him. You know, that was always a big struggle for us was that I felt like I couldn't ever teach him anything because I didn't think how he thought. And so my ideas didn't like make sense to him. And then it'd be like the most random thing that would like click for him. And I'm like, I never would have come up with that in a million years. But it seemed like once Ramsey said it, I was like, oh, it was right in front of my face. Like, why couldn't I make that connection? But it's because I didn't have the training.
Exactly. Exactly. But putting in that time and
Hmm.
the effort that you did to become a mini BCBA for Roman.
Yeah, yeah. I still use the C acronym even with my second. We're going through a lot of attention behaviors with him right now. And I'm like, okay, ignore but be available. Ignore but be available.
Right.
I'm here. I'm in the same room, but I'm ignoring you until you
Yep.
see me.
Yep. I'm ignoring the behavior. I'm not ignoring the child. Like,
Yeah, please
I
don't,
understand the
don't
difference.
cancel me for saying that. Saying
Oh, no.
that.
Yes. Yes. I got you. Yeah. I mean, the progress that we were able to see from him in the year and a half was,
Exponential. I mean,
it was.
my friends always say to me, they're like, he has no ceiling. And I credit a lot of that to ABA because I think if we hadn't intervened when we did, I think he would have gotten very rooted in his ways. Cause like I mentioned before, he's a very strong willed child. So I say my PCBAs, RBT, they were my angels on earth for our family.
Yeah. I mean, and you just being receptive to learning and
Yeah, he
turn
definitely
around
needs
and
to humble
implementing.
himself as a parent, I think too, and realize you don't know what's right when you have a special needs child and to be receptive to the therapist because it's their job. They studied this, they went to school. And I feel like with a lot of parenthood, you can wing it, but with a special needs child, you really can't.
Yeah.
I had to
Great
change a
point.
lot in myself because I'd say I was very like kind of like type B with a parenting, but I became very type A with parenting
Mhm.
because we needed the rigidity. Oh my gosh, what's that word? Like
You
rigidity.
needed the structure.
I needed the structure. Can you like believe? I needed I needed the structure
Yeah,
because he needed that routine
totally.
for him to thrive.
And that is like directly correlated with, his level 3 rated behaviors, repetitive behaviors. That was his brain. That is how he's strong-willed because of that.
Yeah, no,
And
he
there's nothing wrong with that. And that kind of where it comes in that we don't want to change who he is. Like my daughter is
no, he
strong-willed.
never wanted to change who he is because he is a gift. He is a gift and mother is a gift, but he needed help at the same token. And I had to make peace with that. I had to tell myself that it wasn't bad, that I was getting him therapy, that I was helping him, and that I wasn't saying like, oh, you're not good enough or anything like that. That wasn't it at all. It was just, he needed, I mean, his quality of life, I feel like, is so much better now. My quality of
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the mother's happiness has like so much impact.
no, exactly. I'm a better mom.
Right. If you remember anything from the book, the Parent Playbook, which the Parent Playbook that I have, you helped me write parts of it. I sent rough drafts to a lot of my parents that I love. And I was like, just give me feedback. Just give me, at the end of the day, I've been in this field for almost 10 years, but I'm not a parent of a child
Yeah,
with
it's not
autism.
your 24-hour day.
It's not my 24-hour.
You don't
I've
like
never walked in those shoes. I've
Mhm.
helped and supported. So I wanted to know when you went through this new diagnostic process and
Mhm.
afterwards, what was helpful to know? What were you searching on the web for?
I think Doctor Google can be a slippery slope. I think having the playbook, something I really love that you go over is just like the resources and the language because you're kind of entering a new world when you start thinking your child has autism or you already have the diagnosis in hand. There's a lot of, like, different language and words that lead you to various places, so I think that's really helpful. Also, just, like, the support in the playbook, like I said, that it's not the end of the world, the hope that you express, like, throughout and, like, and just the understanding that there are different levels because I know my story isn't gonna be like someone else's story. And just like I said, like, the spectrum of autism too, I think how you approach that in the playbook really helps and inspires.
You.
Yeah.
Well, you helped me. You helped me with that information. Something else that you
Mhm.
added that you really liked was like the ABA. You really helped me with that section too, and seeing it from a lens of I was terrified to do this. I was
Yeah.
told not to.
I think I kind of said that too already, just saying like it was just kind of born out of desperation of being like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh. I don't think if things hadn't gotten as bad as they did behaviorally for my child, I don't think I ever would have been ABA because so many people were telling me not to.
Right.
So it's a leap of faith. Like I said, it was my Hail Mary.
Well, let's talk about Roman today, where he's at.
Yeah. So Roman's a major success story. And I know when I first got the diagnosis, anytime I could see like a positive of someone's story and see where their child was now after like a few years of hard work, it was so comforting to me. I've always been a very optimistic person, I'd say. And so the hope that gave me when hearing people's stories like mine is now like meant the world to me. So Roman, we moved and we've moved a lot in his life and he takes the changes in stride. So we moved this summer because my husband's getting his MBA, moved to Indiana and Roman's actually in a gen ed kindergarten class. He's thriving. He has
Thriving.
thriving. He does have an IEP at his school and there's no way that he wasn't going to need that. So he does get speech at school and everything. And he gets a little social lunch experience, like a couple times a semester to help with social skills because that's still a little tricky. Yeah, he's in a gen ed class, doing so well. His grades are good. He's not like the bottom of his class. He's not the top, but he's somewhere in the middle, which I was
Yeah.
super happy with. And he has friends. He's not getting bullied. He's able to
All
tell
the
me
ladies love
all
him.
the ladies all the ladies love him. He has 2 best friends that he plays with all the time. I had his parent-teacher conference, and she's like, "If I could describe Roman in one word, I'd say he's outgoing." I was floored. I was like, "What?" My husband and I are both very outgoing people, so it's definitely modeled for him, but I didn't know if that was gonna be, like, natural for him, but it is. And I mean, he's doing well. I never fear about going anywhere. We can go to restaurants. I mean, the only time it's ever hard is if we're somewhere loud. It's not that he's having a meltdown. It's just that he starts getting more wild. So he'll start running around doing laps and things like that. He definitely feeds off the energy of the place. But, I feel like I can take him anywhere. I'm not fearful of doing anything. And I mean, right now we're working on reading, but I think that's hard and I'm
Yeah.
trying to figure that out. But, it's just kind of taking it a day at a time. But, there's nothing that I'm afraid for his future now. I just feel infinite hope and I don't think he has a ceiling and I don't want to put a ceiling on him or belittle what he can do because he can do so much. I mean, he's talking. He can tell me about his whole day. He can write his name. He can draw pictures. I mean, like any typical 5-year-old, he's keeping up with everyone and he's doing the work and everything. So he's doing really, really well.
I love him so much.
I love him too. He's just my best bud.
He's amazing. Y'all are soulmates. I've always said that.
Yeah,
Y'all are the mother-son soulmate.
yeah. No, we are soulmates. I love him so much. I feel like my husband and I each got our mini. My youngest looks identical to my husband and definitely has very similar temperament to my husband. And Roman has very similar temperament to me. And he looks a lot like me. But he definitely looks like my husband too. He looks
Right.
more like me.
Definitely. Definitely. Last thing before we go, you have a platform right now that's going to go out to a lot of people that could be in the exact same shoes that you were in 3 years ago. What is something that you would tell them if you could just kind of wrap it up?
I'd say give yourself grace, essentially. Like, take the time to grieve, don't rush, and just take it a day at a time.
Yeah.
And just show your child unconditional love. That's really it, because I definitely feel like there were times where it was really hard to just have that patience with him. But I always noticed I felt like he did better when I did give him that grace and give myself that grace. Like, yeah, this is hard, but we're going to get through it and just show up for your child. And squeaky wheel gets the grease. You have to be an advocate for your child.
Yes.
No one's going to come save you. I felt like I had fallen into like a 20-foot pit.
Yeah.
No one's throwing a rope down to get me out of this. I have to like climb my way out of here. And so just, give yourself grace. That's really it. And try your best. And your best will be good enough. Your best will be good enough.
Right. That's great. Well, thank you so much.
Welcome.
Thank you for talking and sharing everything today.